Welcome to our Playbook podcast, your go-to space for unfiltered, real-life conversation and stories of successful beauty queens in Uganda. Now, on the set today, I have a special lady. I must say, she put Karamoja region to the map. Now, when I talk about Karamoja, I think it clicks. The name clicks to you. She was first runner-up Miss Tourism Uganda in 2015, so we were in the struggle together, but we'll get into that. And then she later on went into Miss Uganda, so we are going to sit down with her, dive into her life, how she got into pageantry, and what she thinks about the pageant industry right now, and her future plans. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Karen Nyangan to the set.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How have you been?
I've been good. How are you?
So nice to see you.
I know.
Beautiful as always.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're one of the people when I told, can I have you any day, anytime?
Yeah.
Tell me, I'll be there.
I'm so eager for this moment, actually. It's long overdue. So well done.
Well, thank you. So, Karen Nyangan, before pageantry, what was she up to? Where was she? What were her aspirations by then?
Yeah. Before Miss Tourism, I was a student at Makerere University Business School, and I was pursuing a bachelor's degree in procurement. And at that point, I was not looking at anything other than school, actually. Yeah. So I kind of tried to join the modeling industry, but every time I sent my photos to Joram, I didn't go through. So I think it's because I was not really prepared. I just liked being told I'm a model because of the height. And I think I had a little bit of the model look. I don't know. Of course, I later I understood what they look for. But before then, I just thought it's the height they need and the small size and I could be a model. So aside from school, I was trying to get into the modeling industry. Yeah.
So coming from, a region like Karamoja, how did you even get to hear about Miss Tourism Uganda? And, what was that drive that made you decide to, let me give Miss Tourism Karamoja a try? So
before I heard about Miss Tourism Karamoja, I heard about Miss Tourism Uganda. And I remember meeting Babide, Queen Babide, and she was selling jewelry by then. And when I met her, she told me she was the current Miss Tourism, and she told me about the possibility of me placing if I contested because she saw something in me that I was not seeing in myself. And so during that same time, coincidentally, Joram posted about girls who would love to join the pageant industry that year, and he was willing to train them. So I enrolled in Joram's training, and after the training is when he allocated some girls that could, he advised actually, not that he allocated, but he advised according to the qualities he saw in us, which girl would place well in Miss Tourism and which girl would really do well in Miss Uganda. And so he advised me to try Miss Tourism, and after a few months, the contest was opened and I enrolled for the very first time. Actually, Miss Tourism came to Karamoja, and I managed to enroll as the first ever Miss Tourism.
And I think that was the time that Uganda got to see a side of Karamoja that we didn't know existed.
Yeah.
How did it feel like? Did you feel like it was, you had like so many people at the back that you had to make proud? Like how did you feel like, representing Karamoja for the first time, how was that feeling?
So you say first, growing up, we've always had that stigma from being Karamoja, because we had comments like how we will not wait for Karamoja to develop and all those things. So having Karamoja place at national level was everything I wanted. And I just felt like I needed to prove that there's something good in Karamoja. We are beautiful, we are intelligent, and so it was more about that. But then also, when I joined the pageant, my dad was actually not okay with it. He didn't really fully support me with that. But he kind of, just as a father, there's nothing you can do if your child has decided to do certain things. So he just decided to give me the permission to contest. And so I didn't have so much support from home, but I had the support of the masses. So at least I knew that I had to prove to my father that this is actually a good thing. It's the first time that I'm trying to pursue a dream that I've had. And then it's a moment for me to make the entire Karamoja proud and not just him. And I'm glad it played out well.
So you come to National Boot Camp.
Yeah.
You're meeting 30 plus other girls from all over Uganda.
Yeah.
Different cultures, different behaviors, and you're going to live in a space for like a month.
Yeah.
What were your expectations coming into the National Boot Camp?
First, I didn't expect to be in boot camp. I had already missed boot camp for the regionals because I had no permission from my father again. And this time round, I'm supposed to go for the nationals. But of course, the Miss Tourism team actually had a conversation with him and eventually let me go there. So by the time I went, I had lost all hope and I didn't expect anything. I just went for the sake of not disappointing the person that had broken my dad's wall to let me go to boot camp. So my own focus had been Miss Tourism Karamoja and not the national competition. So when I made history in Karamoja, I didn't think I would go ahead and make that history at national level because it's not something that I looked forward to. Yeah, so I just went there for the sake of being there.
So you go through boot camp.
Yeah.
All the phases, talent night, elimination, sponsor visits, and then it is the time of the grand finale. Did you have an expectations, or did you at any point think that, okay, I could actually win this, or I could actually be in the top 3? Did it ever cross your mind?
I only felt it when they read top 5 and I was among. For some reason, when they read the top 10, I was the last on the top 10 to be read. At that point, I didn't think I was going to make it. But then I got surprised with my name being there. Then that is when I started to have a little hope that maybe I could actually make it. And then they read top 5 and I'm still in the top 5. That's I remember telling Sheila and Pauline, because they were my closest people in boot camp. I remember telling them, I think I could make it to top 3 and I know you guys will be there as well. I started to get that feeling, that faith that we are all, the 3 of us are going to make it there. And I didn't care whether I would be the queen or not. I just now at that point I was fighting just for top 3.
For top 3.
And it happened. And played out well.
I remember when I was in camp with you guys, the time that I said a prayer and I was like, God, I just pray one of you is the first, the second, and the third.
Oh.
So when it actually happened, I remember Camilla telling me, Rona, you must be a witch. Like, how did you know this? But I think there was just something special about you 3.
Wow.
And I think it sailed through and the judges could see it.
Yeah.
And of course, we couldn't have had a better trio representing us that year. So you guys, you did amazing.
Yeah.
So changing now into that life, you now have management you have to answer to. You cannot just wake up in the morning and go wherever you wanted to. And by then Miss Tourism Uganda was managed by a minister, so the spaces that you are going into had so many important people. How was it like transitioning for you into that kind of space?
It was quite exciting actually because I was happy to be in that space because this is not something I've experienced beforehand. And it happening at that moment made me feel a little bit special actually. And much as it almost affected my education because there are moments when they would call us for meetings at the ministry, but I had a talk with my lecturers, different lecturers actually. I told them why I was always leaving that class during work study hours, and every moment, every lecture I told, I was going to the ministry for a meeting with the Minister of Tourism. It was like, just go. Just go. And I remember there's a time I actually missed about 3 tests, but all of them just let me redo my tests because I explained I was with the Minister of Tourism. So it was a nice experience for me, actually. It wasn't hard to transition to that. It just felt, finally, I am being treated like someone. I am a queen. You know how that feels? I am a queen. I am no ordinary person. I felt good.
So, a time came for you, and you were fortunate enough to travel with the UTB team to Berlin for the World Trade Market, I think. When they brought the news to you, what was going through your mind?
I was not surprised. These are things you expect as the top 3. At that time, I don't know about now, but at that moment, we had been told the top 5 were all going to travel. And so most of us were traveling for competitions, except for one person who was Miss Heritage. She was supposed to travel for just, I think, for leisure, for travel, tourism. And the rest of us were supposed to travel for our competition, international competitions. But then mine got postponed to a year later. And by that time, I would not have been Miss Tourism. And so the ministry and UTB worked together to create an opportunity for me to actually also travel. So Sheila went for the international competition. Pauline was expected to go to Japan, but along the way, I think some things happened here and there, which I'll leave it to her to tell. And then I had the opportunity to go to Germany. So it wasn't a surprise. I was waiting for it.
How did it feel like showcasing, the Karamoja culture?
My goodness.
At the international level when you got there.
So you know how the Karamoja culture attracts attention wherever you go. It was the same when we were that side. I actually ended up convincing some people to travel to Uganda and visit, and they did visit. Maybe 2 years or 1 year later, they came and contacted me. We are around, and it was nice to know that my showcasing of Karamoja had actually paid off. But it was beautiful. It was just so nice.
Amazing. So, you finally handed over the crown. And you transitioned into the real world. And before you entered into Miss Uganda, how did you transition into the real life before you actually went into Miss Uganda? What did you get into? What career path did you take during that time?
Okay, so first I joined the corporate world actually as an executive assistant, and I worked there for 1 year. But I needed more, and I wanted to work for myself so badly. And so that is when I started up my business, Africa Accessories, that deals with the traditional beaded jewelry from Karamoja. Some designs are from South Africa, others are Maasai, but just celebrating culture through this artwork. So that is what I ended up doing immediately after the corporate world of
the corporate world. So Miss Uganda comes up, and you go and take part. What were your expectations? Coming from being a national title holder, and getting into another competition. What were your fears going there?
I had no fears. Okay, I actually did have fears. I was only worried that these are 2 different competitions that at some point I thought they had this competition between them. And so I was worried that going from Miss Tourism to Miss Uganda I would be treated a bit differently because this is somebody they think maybe would take secrets to Miss Tourism. But contrary to that, I was actually welcomed like anyone else, like a normal contestant. So I had a fair a chance to compete with the rest of people. But I expected to win, just as everybody who goes to a competition does. So my expectation was at least I would be Miss Miss Uganda. I'd go to Miss World. My target was actually Miss World. So whichever competition was taking me to Miss World, I was going to enter.
So when you got into Miss Uganda camp, what are those things that you would say were a bit different between the two pageants? You felt like, with yes, we know Miss Tourism Uganda is all about promoting tourism, and Miss Uganda is all about beauty with a purpose. But did you find it hard to fit in, maybe coming from a background of tourism?
Yeah, I did. I actually found it very hard. Why? Because in tourism, everybody has been called a queen. Not that they don't call the rest queens in Miss Uganda, they do. But remember, in Miss Tourism, you join when you already have a title.
A regional title, yes. Yes.
So in Miss Uganda, you're on one ground and you're fighting
for one crown.
And for those that don't get the one crown, they get the other titles. However, at that point, when you go into this competition, you don't know who's getting what. So there's too much competition compared to how I felt in Miss Tourism. I felt more at home in Miss Tourism. There was not much, let's say, competition. There was more about promoting togetherness together to create awareness about tourism, together to promote regional tourism, and it didn't feel like we were in a competition. But at some point in Miss Uganda, it felt like everybody was competing. And there's a moment where you lose hope, but then the chaperones they are actually also sometimes take you aside and say, what is wrong with you? We see that you were very competitive at the beginning. You had this zeal, you had the energy, but somehow you're losing it, and then you get back to the competition. So at the end of the day, you are fighting. You're fighting to be seen, you're fighting to be heard, you're fighting not to be wrong, just to always be correct in their books, because you don't have anything going there. But with Miss Tourism, you went there with a title. So even though you don't get the final crown, you have a title. So I think that is what felt so much different. Other than that, everything else is
the same. Take us to the grand finale, when you got there. How was the grand finale?
Miss Uganda, Miss Tourism.
Miss
Uganda grand finale. By the time I went on stage, I think I knew I was not going to make it. When they read top 10,
expectations.
When they read the top 10 and they awarded us, I got Rising Woman. I knew Rising Woman will not be Miss Uganda. Somehow,
yes,
I have never had a Rising Woman become Miss Uganda. So when they made me the Rising Woman,
you knew you had lost
I'm
the title.
not the one. But the finale itself was actually, it started off very good. It was very nice. We had fun. And I had a crowd. This time around, my father was there, thank God. My family was all there. I had people, friends, fans from wherever present that day, and we had filled up. I think up to now, I think Mama talks about it. We made history actually. The Karamoja team was
big,
was seen. So they made noise, and it was just so nice to see people support. When I was in Miss Tourism, I didn't have much of a crowd. I had to make other people's fans support me. And I remember talking about it with Sheila and Pauline that when we get on stage, let's make sure the people that have come to cheer, the other girls cheer for us, because our people are not here. So in Miss Uganda, I had my people. It felt so good, walking on that. I walked like an angel with all the grace. So I strutted that runway so nicely, and up to today I still have that picture in my mind. How I walked. The first appearance was so angelic. I don't think anyone has had that experience.
I remember watching, because it was live, and because we all had the support. Oh no, our girl Karen is there. So watching you on that stage, actually, I think for us it was enough for us. We were like, she has made it, and we were like, that's all we just wanted, like an affirmation.
Wow.
Like we were like, okay,
thank you.
Miss Tourism Uganda girls might not make it at Miss Uganda. It's a worry. But when we saw you and I said, you're like, no, if Karen can do it, then so many other girls could also follow in her footsteps. So just a feeling you had was a feeling we had.
And Joram and a team were in the crowd screaming, Nyangan, Nyangan. And I was so happy. They made me have, they made me gain so much confidence. Yeah.
So you live pageant world.
Yeah.
What are those lessons, or what are those 3 things that change? Okay, just name a 3 or name a few things that changed about you as a person. You know, when you left the pageant world, that things you'd be like, okay, I didn't know this about myself. But being in a pageant space, I got to discover this about myself. Yeah.
Entering into pageantry as a very shy girl, at least people from Karamoja were shocked to actually see me in Miss Tourism Karamoja. So I was very shy, but I became confident. And I could walk into a room of people and speak and command them to listen. So that is one thing that changed. Another thing would be how I carry myself. You know, we had this training with Sarah, and you just had to be a lady. How you're going to sit down, how you speak to people. So there's just that bit that is it's nurtured in you, that you don't have to force it to be a lady. It just comes so naturally. Yeah, so that bit, and then just being so kind. Of course, I was already kind, but it became so more pronounced. And it's like you carry the weight of the world. You want to change the world. You want to do something. I became more focused, more determined to actually empower others to become like the person that I was, or even more than me. Yeah. So those I think are the things that speak so loudly about my journey.
You started after the pageant world now, you know, you already have a business that was running, you know, jewelry and all that. Did you have any pressure of you know, when you're in a beauty pageant, you know, things are, you have management, people that manage you, you know, you are, okay, if I go here, I have a dress to wear, there will be a makeup artist, and so pageantry kind of elevates you or brands you a certain way. Now, when the spotlight is over and now you are back to, you know, the real world, I usually call it default. Did you struggle? You know, like most beauty queens say, I struggle to maintain
the lifestyle.
Yeah, the level where I was elevated when I was in pageants. So did you struggle trying to, you know, transition, but also try to maintain, you know, where pageantry had put you as Karen?
I think before I did struggle. After Miss Tourism, I did struggle, but with the help of our chaperone Sarah, we had it a bit easier because whenever we had to make an appearance, should ensure we have clothes to wear and our makeup is done. So there's just that personal appearance that looks good. However, after that, I didn't take long before I joined Miss Uganda. And by that time, I was well prepared for everything. I had an idea of what I was getting into. So after Miss Uganda, so this is now after all the pageants, because I was not going to do it again, I didn't struggle at all. I didn't struggle. I was okay. So it was much more easier. And by then the business was doing well, so I could afford the life. Just that at some point with years, it felt like I had opened my life to strangers. And I was not a kind of person that wanted people in my business. But now this is a moment when people are in everything that you're doing. They want to be aware. You need to take photos. You need to be engaging on social media. And I just wanted to have my space, to have me to myself. And so that is where I struggled to get back to this person that knows what to put out and what not to show the people. So just that. Did
you struggle with, you know, sometimes when you've been in a pageant, you've been an experience with girls. At some point when you go back into the real world, people around you may not understand because of the things that have changed about you. People can even say, what happened to this one? It's like you went to a pageant and your life just
your
switched.
standard way changed.
Did you have that did you have friends around you that you felt maybe were not understanding you?
I did. I actually did have a lot of people that I lost friendship with, but I regained it after. However, at that moment, they felt like I was prioritizing my life, my limelight life now, and my friends that I've met in these pageants to add to them. But that wasn't the case. It's just because in the pageant world, the girls you meet actually have an understanding of the life you live after. So it's much more easier for them to understand that you get busy or you need to appear a certain way. And if they are not looking the same, my dear, you leave them aside. So at least they get an understanding of such a things. But I thank God that with time, I actually gained back my friends. Yeah.
Okay. And are there opportunities that you have gotten and you say, I've gotten these opportunities because I was in a pageant?
Yes.
What are some of those?
Number one, my first job as an executive assistant came through Miss Tourism. And the connections that I made in Miss Tourism, someone actually had to reference me somewhere. We'll keep the details aside. But for me to get my first job, it was through Miss Tourism. So I feel that is really one of the big achievements I got. And of course, traveling. Just to have that passport stamped with a visa, a Schengen visa.
Within no time.
And it just took like 2 days, I think, off. And one day I had my visa. And to have my first travel experience, courtesy of a pageant, was so telling of the benefits of these pageants. So I had that, and of course all the contacts that I made through this time, most of them have been my first customers. They've supported me up to today, including the person that is interviewing me right now.
Yeah, I remember.
Because you are the first person to actually support Africa Accessories, and you helped to push it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember when you were like coming up with the name of that business.
You see, you've actually been involved in a lot of things concerning my brand.
Yeah. So you recently started fashion.
Yeah.
You're now a designer.
Yeah.
Was this something that you discovered along the way that you could do? How did you get into the fashion designing world?
I had the passion. I had the interest. However, after the pageantry or during pageantry is when the fire was kindled. And so when I finished the pageantry and COVID came in, I was thinking I need another skill. I'm someone who loves learning, and I'm always interested in getting new skills. And so I had a list of skills that I needed to learn, and I kept taking them off. And this was part of it. But I did not think I would do it for business. It was more just to make clothes for myself, like what I'm wearing today.
If it was my size, we were going to leave it.
Possible. We'll make yours. So I didn't expect to do it as a business. It was more about just making clothes for myself. As a pageant queen, they expect you to appear a certain way. You always need clothes. So I knew if I can make clothes for myself,
you'll be sorted.
I can rotate anywhere I want to go, and I'll be okay at a low cost at that.
So what has been the most fulfilling moment since you started your fashion and now designing for other people? What can you say have been like those moments where you've seen your fashions grow, your designs grow?
One, I would say dressing the Miss Tourism girls last year.
Oh yeah.
Just I ran back to the crowd just to see how my clothes appeared on stage, and at first I had a little confidence that these were actually worthy to be clothes that somebody could be crowned in. But looking at them from the eye of the spectators, was so beautiful. The clothes were good. They were nice. It gave me it was so fulfilling. And then also every time I give my clothes to the clients, and they love them, and they tell me I exceeded their expectations. Just all I need.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and we just can't wait to see where this is all going.
Thank you. Amen.
But like you say, I think having a skill is something that someone can't take away from you.
Yeah.
So when you have it just depends on how you're going to elevate that skill.
Yeah.
When you look at pageants in general, from when we contested and right now, do you think that the industry is growing in a more impactful way, or we've ceased to see queens actually impact their communities as expected?
Yeah, I would say we have the number of people that now come up to actually use their titles as a platform have become very few compared to the prior years. And so I don't know if it is a problem with the pageant world, the industry, the organizations, or the contestants themselves, but there's definitely something wrong.
What, having been a queen before and going through management, having someone to manage you, do you feel like what advice would you give organizations right now when it comes to managing beauty queens and ensuring that they have impactful years, compared to last year, to your years? Because then when you look at past years, we're able to point you people out. Not because that you did huge things in the world or what, but we are able to relate to you people. So could you say what advice would you give organizations right now that could just solve some of those issues?
I feel, or rather I believe, that it should be more than management, and these people need to create a level of parenthood for these contestants, for the girls actually, for the queens, because at the end of the day, they need to be more concerned about these girls and what they do for their community, for themselves, what legacy they leave behind from a parent's point of view. When you look at it from a managerial point of view, it looks like you will go and another person will come in. But from a parent's side, looks like I need you to become better. I need you to do something for yourself. And I feel that is something that we were lucky to get from Mama, from the entire team, from Sarah Nyamwenge, from Joram. They gave us a level of friendship where they were more concerned about what we become for ourselves and what we do in our communities and how they can support us. And so I believe the girls need support. They need that support. The economy gets tough, and it's okay, not that the Ugandan economy is getting harder and harder, and you need certain resources to carry out a lot of these projects, and most of the girls don't have those resources. But you see, for us, we had support. Let's take, for example, Mama Maria Mtakamba, the late. We had support from her that when we needed to maybe create awareness in a certain area, let's say Kidepo, around the park, we had access to these people. We had access to transport from Uganda to Ua. We had access to accommodation. We could access the parks and actually speak to the people from a point of knowledge, not from what we've learned online, but from what we've experienced. So at the end of the day, the queens are going to need not just verbal support. They need tangible support to make it and do all these projects. So I think it shouldn't be just management. It should be more.
Moving away aside from that, do you think pageants taking part in a pageant, do you think it has an effect on how beauty queens show up in relationships? Could be love relationships or friendships. Do you feel like going through a pageant affects the way you show up in relationships in general?
Kind of, but it also depends to the individual. Depends on the individual, and I think pageantry actually just brings out who you truly are. It helps to highlight who you are.
Really
so
are.
at the end of the day, the way you relate is going to end up being who you have been all this while, and pageantry just helped you with that. However, I feel it also gives you a certain standard below which you cannot accept. And if you meet people that will not accept that you have a level of value that you're looking for, definitely they'll look at you like you're show off, or you're spoiled, the pageant world has ruined how we relate and all those things, because it kind of it gives you a standard. It makes you know what it makes you expect more, actually, from yourself, from people. And so at the end of the day, sometimes it affects relationships. However, it didn't affect mine.
Luckily.
It actually, it can affect in a good way or in a bad way. And so for me, it helped me so much in terms of relationships, because I don't just carry anything and go with it. So you have this standard that you've set. Yeah.
What could you say are some of the challenges that you faced, apart from, when you mentioned that your dad didn't support you at first? What other challenges can you say you faced in your pageant journey?
I don't think it was really that challenging for me, except for that bit of going without support at the beginning. However, with time, as the competition went ahead, I got the support. I didn't have so much challenges. No.
People say pageants, there's no way someone can just go and win. You have to have someone that connects you, that knows you. There is no way you just come from a small background in Karamoja and go to a pageant and win. What was it for you?
Who could have connected me there? Nobody. No one. Because by the time I went, my dad didn't want me to go. And that is one person I know who would have gone far above and beyond to ensure that I win. But that's not something he was interested in. And for me at that point, family was everything. So I went for pageantry on my own. When I got support, they also came on their own. There was no one who could give me money. I was not a rich girl then. Thank God we've changed.
That's the transformation.
Amen. We thank God. So I didn't have money. I didn't have anything except what I had within me that could actually make me place in the top 3 or as a rising woman. I paid nobody. However, if times have changed, I cannot speak for that. I would only speak about my experience, about our time and what ensued while we were there. So for me, there was no one I paid. There was no one who connected me to anyone. It was just, I would say, the glory of God, the favor of God.
Could you give us one funny moment, a memorable moment in your pageant life that you look at, and maybe if you could remember, you'll be like, this was very funny that happened?
I think I would say every moment that we got on stage, there were some people who got brain locks. You know that moment when they've asked you a question and you cannot even think, you cannot speak, you are stuck, you're blank, your brain is blank. So we had people that would get brain locks and everyone would look at them, and we are also looking at each other, but you cannot laugh, you cannot speak, you're just whispering on stage. I think that was a funny moment.
But it happens.
Yeah.
It actually happens. Yeah. So I remember when we contested. There was a tragic accident that happened, and we lost some past queens. Did it scare you moving forward, since it was a job that you were taking that involved traveling, and these people, passed away because they were actually going for duty as queens?
It did scare me actually, because it was the weekend after my crowning. I was still fresh in the papers in the Miss Tourism world, and I remember thinking to myself, did I make a wrong decision? And even my dad came and reminded me, see what you're getting into. This is what I told you. These things are not good. And then I also knew at the back of my mind that it was just an accident, and nobody caused it, and we can't blame anybody. So at the end of the day, we had to brace ourselves. And I think the Miss Tourism team did a good job in building the confidence of the girls that were just entering into the industry that year, our year. So, yeah.
Okay. So do you really firmly believe that pageants are a platform that empowers women?
Yeah, I do believe so, because I am a living testimony at that. And so if my life turned out good, then someone else's life could also turn out good. But it also comes back to you as an individual. What is your purpose going into it? What's your goal? What do you want to attain from these pageants? Are you going in for the sake of having the name, or for yourself creating something out of what you already have existing in you? Do you want it for your community, or do you want it for someone else? Do you want to just show off, or do you want to build a legacy out of it? So when you go into it, and you might not go with that in the back of your mind, but once you have attained that bit and understood that this is what I am getting into and this is what I can get out of it, then I think pageantry is something that a lot of girls should try, mostly because of the fact that it helps you learn how to communicate. It builds that confidence in you, that esteem that you actually need in a lot of different industries and different aspects of your life. You need to be able to have these skills with you, and just being in that industry, being in the pageants, in the competitions, builds these skills.
We have a challenge. The beauty industry in Uganda is so small, and the perception people have of pageants is not quite out there. What do you think would be the reason as to why, sometimes beauty queens say, I walk into a room and automatically I'm judged for simply because I was once a beauty queen. So it kind of crowds the judgment of someone to think beyond that. Actually, Rona can actually do this. Being a queen does not limit her to excel in a position or in a job or in anything. What do you think people think that way?
I think it's just about people's experiences with the different beauty queens that have represented us in their lives. So at the end of the day, they have a picture of the other person when looking at this new person, forgetting that these are different individuals, and the pageant industry doesn't produce one person. It produces different people with different personalities, with different goals in life. So at the end of the day, how they have represented us in the past is what has built some of these people's perceptions. And now we are struggling to actually help them to unlearn and declutter all these things from their minds, from their hearts, from just their perspective of what they think of us. And so I think it's just who they have met. It's not even about the entire industry as a large, but it's just them, the particular people that have represented us that they've met.
If you were to look at Karen Nyangan of 2015, fresh, still in school, and the Karen now, what advice would you give that Karen?
Wow. Karen of 2015.
If you had the chance to meet this Karen now,
I think I'll just pat her on the back and hug her and just tell her I'm proud of her because she did a lot. She did great for someone her age. She did absolutely amazing. And I would only tell her not to give up, to continue pressing on, and that at some point you enter the real world and all these things come behind you. So you have to lead. You have to create who you want to be outside the pageant world, because if you want to be in the professional world, then you would have to at least get out of the pageant world. If you want to do business, there are some things that you might learn from there. And I'll just tell her to hold on to a lot of these things and use them like she has used them now to usher in her new chapters in life. But I'll be so proud of her.
I'm sure she would. I'm sure she would.
I should be laughing.
So, what advice would you give a girl who is out there and wants to join pageantry? Any tips? What to look out for?
Number one advice would be go with a purpose, go with a goal. Don't just go for the sake of going because you've seen other people going and appearing in newspapers. Forget that result, but start to see the hard work that others have put in. Look at all the things they've had to go through. Number two would be to have a training. Don't go there looking blank, because at the end of the day, a lot of people invest in these competitions, and for you to just appear with no prior training is very unserious. So I would advise them to actually have trained someone to train them earlier, just to have basic knowledge of what they would expect or they would encounter in the competitions. And then not to forget God, because I know that I prayed. I remember telling God, we need to make history. I should make this history with you for Karamoja when I was going for the regionals. So that is something that I know God held. And when he awarded me the title, I was happy and I was thankful. I went back to him and said, thank you. Thank you for this. We have made history. There will never be another first ever Miss Tourism Karamoja until date. My name has never been forgotten there. So putting God first in everything is actually really, really important. And so just
that. Okay. So we should say in Karamoja there. How do you go back and is the reception still the same even after all these years?
Yeah.
When you get there, someone is able to be like, this is Karen. This is Karen Nyangan.
The reception is still actually pretty much the same. Although, of course, there's some people who don't know me now. But every time I introduce myself and say, I am Karen Nyangan, they're like, oh, Miss Tourism. So they don't look at me as somebody that handed over a long time ago. They still call me Queen. Miss Tourism, our Queen, our Queen.
Oh, wow.
So it's just so amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty nice. So my last question, what's next? Or tell us what Karen Nyangan is up to.
Yeah.
Any plans for the future, for the pageant industry? What are those things that Karen is currently working on?
So I am currently I'm not trying. We shall cut that off. I am currently working on building my brand to become better. So for now, all I can disclose, part of what I can disclose is that Afrique and Made by Karen are merging to become one brand.
That's nice.
And so we want to create pieces that have an identity. They remind us of where we come from. There's that cultural awareness in our pieces that we want to create. And so we are merging Afrique and Made by Karen. So that is one. And then I want to go back to empowering my girls. You know, I had this group of girls from different places that I was actually training in bead making, and we kind of got affected by the lockdown happening, and some of the pieces that we used to make these things could not be purchased. And so I want to go back to that, and anything else that God has prepared for me. Surely I'm prepared. I'm so flexible right now to experience all these things, and of course more collaborations with my interviewer, with the pageant world, with the fashion industry. I know that there's so many. There's a lot that I need to get into in these industries, and I'm hoping that actually I get to pursue them and to start and finish them. So of course, Miss Tourism this year, we might not, we don't know yet, but let's look forward to that. But expect a lot. Some is going to be surprising, some is supposed to be something that you expect. But we are stepping up much more than that we've been.
Okay. And how is your dad now? Is he proud of you for having taken this journey?
The most proud father that I know, and very supportive. Daddy, if you're going to watch this, know that I appreciate and I see your support so much, and I know that you wanted the best for me. So this is not from a place of making you look bad. No. That you were a good father, and I pray that other parents can be like you, because at the end of the day, you wanted the best for your child. My dad had this fear that I would stray, because they brought me up as a church girl, as a Christian girlie, and now joining the pageant industry, they expected that I would actually go into other ways that I'm not supposed to. So that was his fear. But I've proved to him that actually I am a straightforward girl. I'm very focused. I've remained true to myself. I still hold God dear to my heart. And so he sees it. And now he appreciates it so much. And I am literally this person that he speaks about everywhere he goes. My dad cannot miss to say my daughter was Miss Tourism. The first Miss Tourism. Miss Tourism Karamoja. I have her in my home. The queen, the what. So I love it.
Well, we could stay here and speak the whole day.
And I love to speak.
But we have to end the episode. And I must say, thank you so much for being on set. And your story is one I've been wanting to tell, because one, you put Karamoja on the map, coming from a small background. You gave us a picture of Karamoja that we didn't know. And right now, when people speak about Karamoja, it's from a place of they are now informed. They are beautiful girls that come out of Karamoja. There is this kind of culture that is untapped.
Hallelujah.
Karamoja is not a remote place we used to think that, if you go there, you're going to be killed. It's a place that you travel to, and people are normal just like everyone else. So I think you made us see that Karamoja through you, and Karamoja should be really proud.
I'm glad.
Should be really proud of you. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think you've loved this story, and we'll bring you so much more. And thank you so much for tuning in. And my last words will be, the crown may be temporary, but the impact lasts a lifetime. Catch you next time in the next episode.